Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 10th, 2025 New Bern Board of Aldermen meeting. The prayer tonight be coordinated by Alderman Prill.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Pastor Johnson, you arrived just in time. The floor is yours.
All I can say, to God be the glory.
Amen.
I want to thank my beloved Alderman for placing such trust in me to give the opening prayer for this great meeting. And I'm just overwhelmed. Thank you, Mayor and all, for your presence here today. Shall we bow our heads? Our Almighty Father in heaven, the creator of heaven and earth, the giver of all good and perfect gifts, the giver of life, health, strength, and salvation. Right early this morning, you didn't let us sleep too late. Early this morning, you reached down from heaven with all power from heaven and earth in your hands. You touched us with your love, your compassion, grace, and mercy. You bless us to look on a brand new day, a day we never seen before. You have been mighty, mighty, mighty good to us in this day. Yes. You brought us over the dangerous highways and byways to this city council alderman meeting. One more day you brought us together. We thank you, our Father.
Thank you, Lord.
For one more alderman meeting. We have come from the north, south, east, and west to sit at table in this historic meeting. Yes, we have come out of love, respect for our city leaders and citizens, all because we are concerned about the health, the well-being of our city and citizens. Our Father, we come before you as an empty pitcher before a full fountain. Look on us with your all-seeing eyes. Remove every sin from within our heart and soul. Fill us with all your love, your joy, your peace, your unity, that we might be all just like you in this meeting. Our Father, give us your peace and unity in this place and in our hearts, all because we are determined to do our best to represent you and to make a strong, positive impression and difference in our city and in the lives of all of our citizens in and throughout this meeting, to the end of this meeting, and beyond. All I say to you today is, to God be the glory for all the great things that you are to us, all the great things that you have done for us, yes, and all the great things you will continue to do for us as we continue to work together and serve you as your people. In the mighty name of our risen Savior, we offer this prayer, and Redeemer of the Lord say amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. If you're able to stand, please do so as we pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Alderman Prill.
Here.
Alderman Royal.
Here.
Alderman Astor.
Here.
Mayor Odham.
Here.
Alderman Kinsey.
Here.
Alderman Best.
Present.
Okay, Board, item number 3 is to approve the agenda. Are there any changes you'd like to make?
If there's no changes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Next is request and petition of citizens, Madam Clerk. First up is Nat Crosby.
Thank you. Hey, y'all. Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. My name is Nat McKellar Crosby, and I am a resident of Ward 6 right here in New Bern. With the time I have, I would like to share an opportunity with all of you. And this opportunity is a viable and sustainable way to increase revenue for this city, allowing for the funding of pertinent projects like stormwater drainage repair, safer roads for motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists, necessary upgrades for our utilities and our parks and recreation, a new fire station and emergency response center, all while generating a true wealth-building economy right here in New Bern. This opportunity is the chartering of a public bank, which I've coined the Bank of New Bern. A public bank is a financial institution like any other, so the city can hold its deposits that it usually gives to another institution in its own bank, allowing the Bank of New Bern to leverage those deposits 10 to 1. Now that means every $1 million that is deposited, you can put $10 million to work for this city. Borrowing the funds needed for the infrastructure and other projects cited previously, and do so without exorbitant fees and interest rates that are typical and hinder these types of projects in the private market. Now the major difference of a public bank is that it has a legal mandate to act in the interest of the community it serves. And this is the part where it gets good for our citizens. The Bank of New Bern would use its mandate to build a resilient economy, providing low-cost lending opportunities for families to cover housing, education, and transportation needs, as well as support our local small businesses, whether that's a startup company or your local favorite business looking to expand. Also, there are a number of passionate and dedicated nonprofits here in town working hard to fill some of the gaps. The city could partner with the Bank of New Bern to create and fund these organizations, meaning programs like youth services, gun violence prevention, and addiction support, uplifting our community as a whole. With the Bank of New Bern, we would have the ability to take care of each other right here at home. I am hoping that you would consider this opportunity as a way to keep our hard-earned dollars right here in New Bern. The GO bonds, if issued on the private market, will, over the life of the debt, cost the city a minimum of $25 million. And that's just in interest payments alone. Not to mention the extra cost of underwriting and the direct cost of issuance that will eat away at the principal amount of that debt. That interest and fees that would be paid out could stay right here in New Bern to increase our revenue and be put right back to work for us, our citizens, and our economy. Now, the process for chartering a public bank begins with an application with the Office of the Commissioner of Banks, and the requirements are outlined in the General Statutes, Chapter 53C. And I will provide you all with a preliminary feasibility report that will include more details in the applicable laws and the process, as well as case studies, a timeline, and monetization options. I urge you all to have an open mind towards this fiscally responsible initiative and an open heart for the prosperity this can bring to the people of New Bern and our economy. I thank you for your time, and I wish you all well.
Thank you. Next is Soraya Bliss.
My name is Soraya Bliss from Ward 1. For months, I've worked to address concerns regarding the Historic Preservation Commission, reaching out to offices across the city and every member of the Board of Aldermen. Thank you to those of you who have responded. I have been advised that while the HPC Board is responsible for its actions, the Aldermen are accountable to provide oversight. I respectfully request your leadership to address legal and public interest concerns with the HPC. You've been provided a document detailing some of these concerns, which will also be made available on the Dear New Bern HPC Facebook page. The HPC's issues extend beyond Ward 1. Issues affect every ward, 1 through 6. The HPC is paid for through the general fund. Taxpayers from all wards share the cost of the HPC, including staff, legal fees, and compliance, such as the maintenance of city buildings. Insurance companies calculate premiums using risk pools, not individual wards. When repairs are costlier, so are insurance premiums. The HPC's conduct reflects on the city government as a whole. The HPC still fails to comply with the 2021 state mandate to update its enabling statutes. It illegally conducts closed committee meetings. It neglects to maintain or share legally required documents. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of its own governing rules, and it recently conducted a vote in a design review meeting and manipulated guidelines to achieve its desired outcome. Moreover, the HPC has not adhered to best practices, engaged the public, or despite a devastating hurricane, made any guideline updates for 52 months. And that change only addressed site planning. Compounding this, the HPC asserts unchecked authority, stating in its rules of procedure, which it amends with zero oversight, that, quote, policies and rules of procedure in this document supersede any rules of procedure that may be referenced in the New Bern Historic District Guidelines. Translation, we, the HBC, get to make our own rules when we want and how we want, and our rules are the ones that count. The current guidelines and practices beg legal questions, are inconsistently enforced, split the district into have and have-nots, ignore sustainability and resiliency, and undermine the HPC's very purpose, intent, and goal. When confronted with concerns, the HPC dismisses them, saying, "We have it under control." When pressed for transparency and public engagement, they responded, "Put your concerns in writing, and maybe we'll even call you." I did exactly as they asked. They publicly denied receiving documents, and they never did call. I urge the aldermen who are accountable for HPC oversight to direct the HPC to immediately establish a public inclusive guideline work group with a mandate to deliver an actionable plan for review by August 12th. Additionally, I request a moratorium on guideline update discussions or proposals in regular HPC meetings until the HPC demonstrates legal compliance and competency for at least 2 full HPC meeting cycles. Resolving these issues requires no additional funding, only your decisive leadership. Should resources be perceived as a barrier, I personally volunteer to coordinate all necessary efforts for guideline updates, ensuring public involvement, regulatory compliance, and tangible outcomes that benefit our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Carla Crodel.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Thank you for hearing my comments tonight. My name is Carla Crodel, and I am from Ward 6 in the city of New Bern. I became aware of the vacancy in the Ward 6 Alderman's position last summer. I have been active in trying to be part of the process to rectify that vacancy. Tonight, I would like to ask the board how they intend, what is their plan to make an understanding of how their positions are interfering with their shared interest that all citizens in New Bern deserve and are entitled to representation on this board. When two parties are not able to come to terms, it's usually because they have different positions that are at odds. And that difference of opinion also makes it difficult for them to understand that they have shared interests at heart. We do have a shared interest in shared governance, and indeed the charter for the city states that it is your obligation and your duty to ensure that all citizens are being represented. 6 people applied for the seat. Nobody got interviewed. There were 3 attempts to fill the appointment. 3 of the members of the board never changed their vote. The other 3 members of the board seemed open and willing to consider other candidates and endorse other candidates. Meanwhile, the constituents go without representation. This is not a good thing. There is a lot going on. In fact, the mayor acknowledged that when he said he wanted somebody who was ready to go on day 1. That was 314 days ago. Day 1, indeed. During the May meeting, when presented with 175 legitimate signatures from Ward 6 residents, the mayor stated that he wasn't going to vote for anybody. Indeed, he then went on to assure us that there was only 4 more meetings before the election. In fact, between May 13th and when the next alderman takes the seat, there will have been 6 regularly scheduled monthly meetings. But beyond that, the aldermen have public hearings, called meetings, and so forth. The work that you do far exceeds merely monthly meetings. We then were told that we were trying to put our hands on the scale of the election by pushing for Darlene Brown's candidacy. And this was said even after Darlene's own words in her letter to the board were read, where she said she was willing to fill the vacancy but would decline running in the election in October. The city attorney some time ago advised the mayor that when there is a contentious issue being debated, if the mayor wishes to engage in the matter, he is to turn the gavel over to the mayor pro tem. He did not. Rather, he asserted his opinion forcefully and used the gavel to quell dissent and threaten forcible removal of the dissenters. And so, because there was a desire for somebody ready on day 1, an incorrect assessment of the number of meetings that were left, and a frankly insulting remark that Ward 6 representatives were tampering with the election, Ward 6 now faces the reality that we will have been without representation for 496 days. Perhaps we do not have a shared interest in equal representation. What is the...
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next is Thomas Priest, Jr.
Good evening, Board of Aldermen and Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to lecture you because you are all grown adults and leaders elected by constituents. But the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. These journeys that we all take are different journeys, so we can't assume that each step is equal. For me to walk out my door as an African American black man in this country, I may walk out my door and be accused of something. Or an immigrant may walk out their door, go to work, earn a decent pay, obey all the rules, and be put in prison in the next hour. Each step of us for this journey of 1,000 miles is different. So true with a healthy democracy. It begins with you, the Board of Aldermen, the first governing body for the citizens of New Bern, North Carolina, where we are all citizens and have the first step is to participate in your election. Each of you are elected and represents a certain constituency. Each of you were elected and not placed by an autocratic government. Unfortunately, our government here in New Bern, North Carolina, and democracy is not healthy. It is not healthy because there is a seat there that's been vacant for 400 some days, or will be for 400 some days. So if we expect a healthy democracy for all citizens, a diverse community, how is it that we can start off with an unhealthy government? The citizens and all of its citizens and Ward 6 have not been represented in this Board of Aldermen and its first governing body of New Bern, North Carolina. The membership of you does not represent me as a resident of New Bern, North Carolina. The citizens have the opportunity to vote. And instead of working on how do we fill this seat, now we are faced instead of why we have not filled this seat. Instead of resolving this miscarriage of democracy, you are now complicit in an unhealthy governing body. We have a vacant seat in Ward 6. And whether it's 1 minute before the time is up or 1 day, the principle still remains the same. It is vacant. I charge each of you to address this issue and explaining to us why. You had the opportunity to share with us how. Now you must share with us why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Jen Zerby.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. I'm Jennifer Zerby. So imagine you're at a local restaurant enjoying dinner. Let me back up. So I'm requesting a little bit of an amendment to the noise ordinance, as some of you already know. So imagine you're at a local restaurant enjoying dinner. Suddenly a door slams. Someone laughs a little too loudly. Nothing out of the ordinary, but under our current noise ordinance, that brief sound could result in a violation, unfairly penalizing the business. So today I'm here to show you why this ordinance needs an update to ensure fair enforcement. In an effort to establish an effective noise ordinance, the City of New Bern invested $10,000 to consult a noise specialist. However, despite expert recommendations, the adopted ordinance relies on peak noise readings rather than averaging, a method widely recognized as more balanced. Additionally, noise measurements aren't always taken at appropriate distances, skewing results, which was recommended by the specialist as well. So we propose practical modifications that maintain order while ensuring enforcement is accurate and fair for both businesses and residents. Something I wanted to illustrate was to show you a live sound meter reading. The Read 8080 shows a way to do this. The current decibel readers that both the New Bern Police Department as well as us have aren't able to do it, whereas they show you a low, a high, and the average reading. The sound, the display that I would have had would have showed, and it was so cool to where you could see the average. So if you clapped your hands, all of a sudden it went up to 80. That would have been a violation. So you would have seen how any little noise, where if you cough or you clapped, or the door slammed, somebody shut a dumpster door, it would automatically spike that reading, and that caused us to garner over $1,500 worth of fines. Regardless, even though the overall sound remains steady, and granted, I know that we've had this conversation, I'm not asking for a lot, I'm just asking for different things. Let me get back on track, sorry. Additionally, consider measurement location. In one case, a reading was taken directly outside a business window instead of 25 feet away as advised. This led to an inaccurate assessment and an unnecessary citation. These flaws highlight why simple improvements, such as average readings and properly defining measurement locations, are necessary. So our proposal is straightforward and backed by recommendations, so we suggest 3 key changes. First, using 3 average readings instead of peak measurements. The read R8080, as I stated earlier, calculates these averages, ensuring accurate enforcement without requiring multiple officers on site. Second, defining the measurement location as half the distance between the complainant's residence and the source of sound, or at least 100 feet away, a practical compromise to ensure readings reflect real impact. And third, clarifying the appeal process, which currently requires individuals to submit their case to the chief of police. This makes this process more transparent, thus ensuring fairness for all those facing citations. Updating this ordinance aligns enforcement with expert recommendation, it ensures fairness and consistent measurement practices, and provides businesses and residents with an equitable way to contest citations. The goal is not to weaken the noise regulations, but to improve them so that enforcement is reasonable, clear, and just. So we're just asking the board to amend the ordinance to reflect expert recommendations, establish fair enforcement guidelines.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Steve Skippington.
Good evening, board. My name is Steve Skippington. I'm a resident of New Bern in Ward 3, and I'd like to speak to you about a citywide town hall. It's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that several months ago, Alderman Astor and the mayor had agreed to hold a citywide town hall meeting. Can someone tell us when that has been scheduled for? Am I to assume it has not been scheduled? I'm sorry? They don't respond. Right, okay, well, it was just on the record that that's what they said. So the question is, we are asking, not just me, for a citywide town hall meeting. Elections are coming up and people need to hear. It's that simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Alderwoman Jamisha Harris.
Good evening, members of the board, mayor. I'm just coming here because you know it's Juneteenth week, and I'm representing the committee because they're actually on their way back from Raleigh from picking up the John Canoe commanders, the dignitaries. But we just wanted to let you guys know that the 11th, 12th, and 13th starts the 3-day John Canoe workshop. It is free in Craven Terrace from 10 to 2. Please bring the children out, adults, everybody. I'm making an outfit. Friday the 13th, yes, it's a scary day, but go to Craven Arts Council at 5 p.m. It's art walk. It's beautiful, beautiful art. Then the 14th is the parade and festival. Parade starts at 11 on the dot. If you are in the parade, you better be lined up because Miss Sharon, let's go. That's how she is. Festival is at 12 o'clock. We have an amazing performance, a lot to do, so please show up and support your community. It is for everybody. And then go home, freshen up, and come back for the fireworks at 9 p.m. And then Community Day is on the 17th. The first 100 children at the Rollerland, 4 p.m. Get in there for free. Well, we only have max 100 people, food and everything. And then a lecture series through the Cultural Center, Charlotte Rome. And then Stanley White, please support our Southpaw Baseball. I love them. They're awesome. That is on the 20th at 6 p.m. Sankofa Play is on the 20th at 7:30. And the bonfire, June 21st, that's at the Beasley Compound, 8 p.m. That is a ticketed event, $10 online or at the event. And then Mayafa Barbecue is on the 22nd. It is at 6 p.m. down at the gazebo. It is open to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board, next up is the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the board on items 5 through 11?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Prill.
Alderman Prill,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Next up is item number 12, presentation by the New Bern Underground Railroad Coalition. Mr. Hughes.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Roseanne Wilson, President of the African American Heritage and Cultural Center, to come up and make her presentation.
Thank you. They told me there would be a clicker here. So good evening, Mayor Odham, members of the Board of Aldermen. My name is Roseanne Wilson, and I am the President of the African American Heritage and Culture Center here in New Bern. And we are just one 501(c) nonprofit supporting the Underground Railroad of New Bern Coalition. Others who are part of the coalition, either through membership or support, are the Historic Triborough Association, the Climbers Club of New Bern, the New Bern Historic Society, James City Historic Society, and I'm sure I've left out somebody. The King Solomon Lodge and Tryon Palace. You have in your packets copies of some support letters from some of these organizations and also from New Bern citizens as well. So why are we here? What is our goal? Our goal is to acquire recognition of New Bern waterfront as a National Park Service Underground Railroad Network to Freedom site. That's a mouthful. But that's why we are here, because we have been working on an application to hopefully get that designation. We are here to gain your support as city leaders. We are not here asking for money. We are not here asking for any kind of signage to go up at the waterfront. The application merely puts us literally on the map. You also have a copy of that map in your folders. The map that shows all the different areas in the United States and several in North Carolina who have this designation of being a Network to Freedom site. So a little bit about how this was established. There was a congressional act that was passed in 1998. And through this act, the National Park Service created programs to recognize, promote, honor, and preserve the history of resistance to enslavement through escape and flight. I'm going to say that again. Resistance to enslavement through escape and flight, which is important. Even Frederick Douglass knew when he wrote his narrative that he was trying to dismantle this myth of the happy slave. And so what the National Park System was trying to do was recognize the Underground Railroad so that people understood that, folks that were enslaved didn't want to be enslaved. The network advances also the idea that all human beings embrace the right to self-determination and freedom from oppression. The Underground Railroad New Bern Coalition, what have we been doing? Well, I've already mentioned that it includes members of the community as well as members of several 5013C organizations that are focused on New Bern history. We've consulted with Lisa Jones, who is a name that you all might know if you've ever been out to the Washington Waterfront Underground Railroad. She applied for this designation back in 2015, I believe it was. And so where she is in Washington has been designated and is on that map that, again, you have in your folder. And no, she did not get money for her little caboose that she has the museum in, if you've ever been there. After she got the designation, she used that knowledge to raise money to actually open the museum that she has there. We have also been guided by the National Park Service regional manager, who they assign different people to guide those who are applying to the organization and giving them guidance. So we actually had a Zoom meeting a couple months ago with some folks, and to be very honest, we weren't sure if they were still around or not. So a couple of weeks ago, though, we reached out, and this is, this is still happening. There is still someone there that we have spoken to, and he's looking forward to our application. In fact, we will be hopefully sending a draft to him in another week or two before the deadline, so they can read it and give us guidelines. So this is still happening through the National Park Service. We also planned and had two community meetings in April because we wanted to foster greater community collaboration and engagement, and that worked. Thus, so many letters that you have, and I think there's a couple more that you don't have. So now, why is this important for New Bern? Well, a couple of things. It certainly would contribute to the preservation and dissemination of the rich history that we have here in New Bern. Sometimes some of that history is untold in the African American community. And we all in the coalition, and certainly in my organization, believe that American history is everybody's history. It's not just African American history, but we need to keep that in our minds. Keep looking at that clock, thinking it's telling me when to stop. And also, of course, it would promote the development and growth of our tourism. That is something that's very important to the city. And will be recognized nationally. Again, that map is a national map of Underground Railroad network to freedom. So looking ahead, well, our plan is to submit the application by July 15th. Our hope is that the application will be accepted, and that New Bern will then be added to the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom website and their resources. And after that, then we will continue as a coalition to create and develop educational resources, share stories, educate the public, and further our research. So again, I thank you for your attention. We certainly look forward to your support and wonder if you have any questions.
Does the board have questions?
What specifically are you asking of this board, if anything, with regards to this project?
Just support. I guess, I don't know, a letter of support would be good that we could add to our application, or just knowing that this is something that you think will be good for the city.
There's a couple options. A letter could be done relatively easy and quickly. The board could sign the letter. If you wanted a resolution, which has a little more teeth to it, if you will, we could have one prepared if the board decided to do that, and it could be on our next agenda. Then the board could vote on it, and then you could use that as a resolution. So there's two options. If you want to think about it with the committee and decide, you can get back to us. Either way, I think we can work with that timeline of getting you that information by July the 8th, which is our next board meeting.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you very
you.
much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is item number 13, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting an ordinance amending sections 1515-129, basic definitions and interpretations, and 1578, minor subdivision approval of Appendix A of the Land Use Ordinance for a change in minor subdivision. Ms. Ruth.
Hey, good evening. Thank you.
Evening.
This evening we have a series of 3 text amendments to present to the board. The first one here is the 2 dissections that you just referenced, and simply stated, this is a request coming from the public to modify the lot size and land acreage that qualifies as a minor subdivision. So I want to talk just for a moment and give some context to what we mean when we talk about what a minor subdivision is. The state and general statute says that we have to afford people the ability in our ordinance to simply subdivide a piece of land. What they do not do is tell us how much land that can be and into what size pieces or how many. We get to decide that as a community and what's appropriate for us. So typically, a minor subdivision is between 3 and 10 lots for a community our size, and up to 10 acres of land. Anything within that window would be considered typical of a minor subdivision. And to qualify to be a minor subdivision, the resulting lots created from the parent tract need to meet some criteria. So we can't create a new street. That cannot happen in a minor subdivision. It can't require easements, and it shouldn't require utility extensions. So we're keeping this very simple. They are considered to be very simple. They're typically approved by a staff member, whereas in a major subdivision, we would go through our whole process through our Development Review Committee, or our DRC, where we bring in all of our departments to look at all of those things that would be impacted, like utilities, like how a fire truck gets down the road, like how it gets water, things like that. So when we talk about a minor subdivision, I want you just to think of a rectangle and dividing it up into squares and how many squares that would be, because none of those other things would be impacted. Typically, this process is available because somebody has a tract of land. Oftentimes it is used to create conformities when there's multiple structures on one large lot. It's also very often used when somebody wants to give land to their children and they divide it into pieces like that. It's a very simple explanation of what's being proposed tonight. Currently, we allow a 5-acre tract to qualify as a minor subdivision to be divided into 4 lots. So that falls into that typical window that I just explained to you. And the proposed change that you're being asked to consider is to change that threshold to allow a 6-acre tract to qualify as a minor subdivision, so adding an acre onto that, and to be subdivided up into 6 lots. This is not the entire text amendment. I'm not going to show you all of the changes and all of the text amendments that are being proposed tonight in the spirit of full transparency. That is all in your packet. I've included these slides to just show you that big change of going from 5 to 6 and from 4 to 6 here. So a text amendment, and we haven't done too many of these, but we do have quite a few coming through the pipeline right now, is processed the same way as a zoning map amendment, which we typically call a rezoning. So the way that that can be initiated is that staff can propose a change to the ordinance. You, as the elected body, can propose a change to the ordinance, or the Planning and Zoning Board can propose a change to the ordinance. In most ordinances, there's a process written out, just like is written in ours for how a citizen would request a map amendment or a rezoning. This exists for a text amendment. While state law allows a citizen to ask for a change to our text, our ordinance doesn't expressly call out that process. So after discovering that, we made sure that this process was going in our new ordinance. And when we get requests like this, they have been sponsored by staff, such as this one is. And Alderman Royal asked a good question last meeting on what is a citizen requested text amendment that's supported by staff. That's why I took the time to explain this to you. And so because that process is the same, I have up on here a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board, just like you see, with a rezoning request, and also a statement of consistency that is required for the text change, just like it is for a map change. And so the staff evaluation of this is that we do support this change. We feel it's very minor. It retains all current standards that we currently have, so we're not changing anything other than the size and the number of lots that can be created. And we do feel like this does offer some opportunity for smaller scale developments to occur without that intense review process of going through the DRC or the Development Review Committee and having to go through and have all of those departments look and evaluate a project such as this when it's really unnecessary because the criteria do not allow impacts to water, sewer, utilities, or streets. And with that, I stand before you, ready to answer any questions you may have, and I believe our applicant is also in the room prepared to answer questions for you as well.
Does the board have questions?
Yes, I do. You cited several scenarios potentially for citizens to want this amendment. Any of those fit the citizen that initiated this request?
I'm going to let the applicant answer that for you. I feel that's an appropriate question for him.
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney, do we need to have the applicant do that now or under the public hearing?
The public hearing would be great.
Okay. So, Alderman Royal, when we open the public hearing, the applicant can then come forward and answer that.
Thank you.
Board have any more questions for staff? Okay, at this time I will open a public hearing on item number 13. If you would like to come forward, please do so at this time.
Good evening, Board. I'm Wendy Card with NewBernNow.com, and I'm here just to clarify a few things, and I appreciate your time. In March, I can't remember the date, but in March, the Planning and Zoning Board, it was said that the amendment was requested by the New Bern Preservation Foundation and that the president of that foundation was in the audience to answer any questions. They didn't, and the attorney spoke on their behalf. That president was also a member of the Historic Preservation Commission, which is a quasi-judicial public body. And I'll get to my question in a little bit. So that's what happened. And one of the Planning and Zoning Board members took issue with the amendment, not necessarily because of the request, which I'm not real clear about, because I didn't have all the information that was given to the board prior. So what was said in the public was the change was being requested So structures could be conforming with the law if the amendment was passed. They needed that amendment so it could be a conforming structure. So I guess my question, number one, is what's the policy for the conflict of interest for a historic preservation quasi-judicial commissioner to also be the president of the Preservation Foundation? I kind of see some, if this comes before that Preservation Commission, I just don't see how that is not a conflict of interest, and I'd like clarification. And who will benefit from this change? Is it the public at large, or just one citizen to make their structure conforming? And is that normally how we do business? Is just to change the law to suit one person's or one group's need? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we pause here with Attorney Davis to respond?
Sure, if you'd like to ask him a question.
Yes, ma'am. Lots to unpack there. First of all, this has nothing to do with the Historic Preservation Commission at all. The Preservation Foundation owns some properties that you're going to hear about where this rule would, if adopted, would apply to them and allow them to subdivide their property into 6 lots and avoid the expense of having to go through the major subdivision process. If they had 4 homes, they wouldn't be here because the current rule allows 4 separate lots to be divided as a matter of right through the minor subdivision process. They have a unique situation where they have 6. So that's the genesis of all of this. And I want to repeat again this subtle but important notion. Every citizen has a right to reach out to staff, to reach out to the Planning and Zoning Board, and to reach out to you to propose their ideas. They have a right to do that. They do not have a right to cause a text amendment to be initiated. Right? Just because someone asks doesn't mean that staff or P&Z or you agree. So this is a situation where the Preservation Foundation approached staff with their dilemma. Staff reviewed it, as Jess mentioned, concluded that the proposal made a lot of sense for the very simple reasons that Jess explained. The current rule allows 4 lots to be divided as a matter of right out of a 5-acre tract if it's on a public street and there is no new sewer or water service required. And the proposed rule would change the 5 acres to 6 acres and the 4 lots to 6. This has nothing to do with creating a conformity. Right? This doesn't magically fix someone's existing problem. All it does is it creates an off-ramp for a minor subdivision to decrease the cost for developers who want to divide a 6-acre parcel into 6 lots. Does that make sense?
Bottom line, there is no conflict of interest.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman. My name is Eric Remington. I'm with the law firm of Ward & Smith, and y'all have met me before. I'm here representing the New Bern Preservation Foundation. And as Mr. Davis said, it was us that went to the staff and brought this issue to their attention. Because in this ordinance, specifically within section 15-78E, the Board of Aldermen had already created an exception to the minor subdivision rule, which allowed parcels that had more than 2 homes on them to be subdivided. But it only allowed for the 4. And there's a very important parcel in town that has buildings on it over off of Pasteur Street that is owned by the Preservation Foundation. And that parcel has on it what we refer to as the Six Sisters, and there are 6 road buildings there that have been, they're on one lot right now, and they're essentially rented out as low-income housing. This exception that basically, was created, the problem was that it did not allow for a subdivision of that particular lot to allow those 6 houses to remain in place and not have to tear down some of those houses. So what we did was we went to the staff and we talked about that, and we talked about other ways of trying to reach the goal that the Preservation Foundation was, and that is to have each of these houses be in individual ownership. And these houses have historic significance. We believe that this is consistent with the long-range plans of New Bern, the city of New Bern. If you look at the consistency with those plans, the city's urban design plan actually reflects this property in the plan and talks about it. It is a prominent feature in the city's urban design plan. The River Station neighborhood plan includes 3 images of this property in it, because that's how significant these 6 sisters are to this area, the River Station area. What the Historic Preservation, this amendment would allow is for the Historic Preservation Foundation to then subdivide these 6 homes. Instead of them being on one lot and being essentially rental properties, they would be able to be in individual ownership. And that would, 1, allow them to be better treated and take care of, rehabilitated, and it 2 would increase the tax base for the city. So we're asking the Board of Aldermen to approve this amendment, this text amendment. It's not going to create issues because, as Mr. Davis says, if there is some parcel out there that it's got to meet all the requirements, it's got to have houses that were built on it before 1953, and I can tell you, I have looked, and I have not found another parcel in town that this would affect. So this is really, if somebody has a lot out there that is 6 acres and they want to subdivide it, they're going to have to conform with all of the requirements. But this would allow these 6 particular, the subdivision of this parcel into 6 lots. So we ask you to approve it. And I'm happy to answer any kind of questions that you have.
Do we have any questions?
Assuming that this amendment gets approved, and I don't know whether you can answer this or whether it's a question more of a member of the Preservation Foundation. Will the Preservation Foundation be putting covenants and restrictions on each of these homes prior to their going out or up for sale that a future owner must comply with?
That's a good question, Alderman Prill. I have with me the president of the foundation, Richard Parson, and I'll let him answer that question. But my understanding is yes, that's what the case will be.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Yes, Mr. Prill, it is our intention to covenant all 6 of these individually to be owner-occupied and to prohibit any major change to the exterior so that they will remain in their basic historic fabric. But the goal is to have individually owned, owner-occupied structures. That's what our covenant is intended to say, is owner-occupied.
And will the Preservation Foundation, are you going to be making any improvements to the structures prior to them being put on the market for sale, or will that be up to the new owners to cover the cost of any improvements?
We already have covenants on 70 properties downtown, Many of those have passed through our hands, and our usual way of acting is to sell it as is with a preservation agreement that it runs parallel with the covenant, that the people agreed to fix them up to a certain minimum standard, and then they're allowed to go beyond that as much as they want to.
And as a previous conversation that you and I have had, as is part of the covenants and restrictions, is that going to require the future property owners to only use the rear property for parking, not out front?
That is our intention, yes, sir.
That will be part of the
eliminate,
covenants and restrictions.
Eliminate resident parking on Pastor Street. Yes, sir.
Okay. Nothing further there. Thank you.
Any more questions from the board? Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this topic?
Good evening. Just a general question for the attorney and those behind the amendment. Would this only affect those parcels as mentioned, or would it affect any other parcels in the city?
This rule applies citywide to any property 6 acres or less to be divided into 5 lots. What's getting us confused is that in this particular specific case, there happens to be houses built already, and that makes it confusing.
So this would affect all housing?
It affects anyone who has any acreage 6 acres or less.
Yes.
Who checks the boxes. You're on the street, no extensions of sewer or water. This rule would apply to you. If you currently have that acreage, instead of 4 lots, you could do 6 and fast track it through the minor process.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, board, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing if that's what you desire.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is there further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed. What is the pleasure of the board on item number 13?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt an ordinance amending sections 15-15-129, basic definitions and interpretations, and 15-78, minor subdivision approval of Appendix A of the land use ordinance for a change in minor subdivision.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Royal.
Alderman Royal?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Prill?
Yes.
Mayor Odham?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 14, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting an ordinance amending sections 15-136 residential districts established, 15-46 table of permissible uses, and 15-163 particular uses of Appendix A of the land use ordinance for flexibility in mobile food vendors. Ms. Ruth.
All right, thank you so much. And the sections you just described are all connected to how we regulate food trucks, if we were to say that very simply. So what we are asking for tonight is a change proposed to you that would allow mobile food vendors, also known more regularly as food trucks, in all of our zoning districts rather than just our commercial zoning districts. Staff is in support of the proposed text amendment for the following reasons. It's retaining all of our regulations that apply already to food trucks as temporary uses. It promotes a little more flexibility on where we can use and allow food trucks. And this is very consistent with planning trends throughout the country, broadening accessibility for mobile food vending. As in the last text amendment, I am required to tell you the Planning and Zoning Board has reviewed this. They did unanimously recommend making this change and found it to be consistent with all of our planning documents. Oops. And with that, I can answer any questions for you.
Does the board have questions?
Jessica, was this amendment requested by any entity in particular, or
Nope.
is this
No,
just?
sir. This was an administrative text amendment. We have a lot of public spaces that are actually zoned residential, and this makes it them available for food trucks to go for special events.
Jessica, I just have one question. I know currently, regardless of the zoning or where it's located, we don't allow food trucks on public property unless it's a special event.
That will not change.
That will not change. So this means that a residential neighborhood, if this were to pass, you can't set up a food truck on a public street.
That is correct.
Okay, it has to be on private property. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, I will open the public hearing on item number 14. If anyone would like to come forward and speak, please do so at this time.
Mayor, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is now closed. What is the pleasure of the board on item number 14?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to consider adopting an ordinance amending sections 15-136, residential districts established, 15-46, table of permissible uses, and 15-163, particular uses of Appendix A of the Land Use Ordinance for flexibility in mobile food vendors.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Astor.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best? Alderman Prill?
Yes.
Alderman Royal?
Yes.
Mayor Odham?
Yes, motion carries. Next up is item number 15, conduct a public hearing and consider adopting an ordinance amending section 15-163, particular uses of Article 11, supplemental use regulations of Appendix A of the Land Use Ordinance to remove registration and separation requirements for short-term rentals. Ms. Ritter.
Thank you so much. This is an amendment that is being requested for consistency with state law. Let me get recalibrated here. This is an amendment to our section called particular uses, and this is the section of the ordinance that houses our regulation on short-term rentals. And a few years ago, I believe it was in 2022, there was a case that came out of the city of Wilmington that made some determinations on what was and was not constitutional when it came to regulating short-term rentals. So what this amendment that is for your consideration this evening would do would remove our language in our short-term rental law that requires registration for short-term rentals, because that has been found to be unconstitutional, and also remove the separation requirements. We currently require that they're 250 feet apart, and that is no longer considered constitutional based on this case law. No other changes to our short-term rental requirements would occur. It is simply streamlining our ordinance to be consistent with what the courts have said is and is not allowable. Staff is recommending approval of this due for that case law consistency, and the Planning and Zoning Board is recommending this unanimously as well, based on consistency not only with our adopted plans but with that case.
Board have questions for staff?
Yes, for the benefit of our public, what are some examples of short-term rentals?
It's typically homes that are rented as Airbnbs or VRBOs. However, in land use language that we use fancy, we call them STRs, or short-term rentals.
Thank you.
Any other
Nothing
questions?
further.
Okay. At this time, we will open a public hearing on item number 15. If you would like to speak regarding this item, please come forward at this time.
Mayor will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed. What is the pleasure of the board on item number 15?
I would like to make a motion to adopt an ordinance amending section 15163, particular uses of Article 11 supplemental use regulations of Appendix A of the Land Use Ordinance to remove registration and separation requirements for short-term rentals.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? I just had one comment or question. Mr. Attorney, I know you've said oftentimes that we don't necessarily want to be the one to set the rules and the standard. Is this a situation where maybe we were a little proactive ahead of the game and case law came back and said what we did was basically incorrect?
Great question, Mayor, thank you. Our ordinance was consistent with others statewide. Typically, Wilmington and Asheville are the ones that lead the charge in defending because there's no clear rules as to what you can or can't do. In this case, the court came back, and of the 6 or 8 elements of our ordinance, 2 of those were struck. Since that decision, we've obviously not enforced those 2 provisions, and this just tidies up so that we're all consistent. Maybe you may remember many years ago, same thing happened with group home legislation. When you don't have a robust case law, you do your best until the court tells you otherwise.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Kinsey.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Prill,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Next is item number 16, consider adopting a resolution authorizing the Municipal Service District Advisory Committee to proceed with projects. Mr. Hughes.
Mayor, on May 20th, the MSD Advisory Committee met to discuss a variety of projects, and they came up with several recommendations to the governing board. Those projects include purchasing 2 downtown digital kiosks at a cost of $62,000, allocating funds to the Broad Street parking for the Riverwalk Pier in the amount of $300,000, brick crosswalk project for 8 locations downtown, namely on Pollock Street, South Front Street, and then the half blocks of Craven and Middle Street at the amount of $750,000. Install center armrest on downtown benches. This is a phase, so the first phase is $15,000. Purchase 16 4-foot benches to go on certain areas of downtown that don't have benches, an amount of $20,000. And purchase 8 additional trash cans in the amount of $8,000. All of these would match the existing trash cans and benches in the downtown. If approved, these funds for these projects would come from the Municipal Service District Fund. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board have questions?
Mayor, I would just point out that I had reached out to Foster and Brenda earlier today. The way that the resolution had been worded was that they were being authorized to proceed with these projects, but given the fact that the MSD Advisory Committee is only advisory in nature, they recommend projects for the board's consideration, and if approved, then the city is the implementing agency for these approved projects. So I asked that resolution be reworded, which it was, just to make it clear that any approved project will be the city's responsibility to initiate and execute, not the advisory committee.
Okay. Any other comments? It's the pleasure of the board on item number 16.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the Municipal Service District, well, actually, not the advisory committee, I guess, make a motion to approve the recommended projects from the Municipal Service District Advisory Committee.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call, starting with Alderman Best.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Prill.
Yes.
Alderman Royal.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Odom.
Yes, and just to be clear, that is to approve the updated resolution that was circulated to the board before the meeting. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Okay, next up is item number 17, consider adopting orders authorizing 2025 general obligation bonds. Ms. Ostrom.
Okay, so over the past year, we have been working towards seeking voter approval for 3 separate general obligation bonds. One was the $10 million for the street and sidewalk improvements, $8 million for parks and recreation, and $6 million for stormwater improvements. At the last meeting, you authorized the submission of an application to the Local Government Commission for these proposed bonds. Part of that process requires a notice of intent to file an application to be published in the local paper. That notice was published in the Sun Journal on May 17th. The next steps of this process require that the board approve the introduction of the 3 bond orders and the adoption of the first reading, call for a public hearing to be held on July 8th, designate and authorize the filing of 2 required statements, and authorize the city clerk to file copies of the statements with the Local Government Commission and publish the bond orders and related notice of public hearing. So you have a lot in your packet tonight, and we're going to take a moment to go through that. The first, you should have the 3 bond orders. The purpose, description, and amount on each bond is located in Section 1 of each bond order. The remainder of that document contains the same general language for each bond order, and it pledges to levy tax revenues to pay for the debt. It states that the sworn statement of debt has been filed with the city clerk and is available for public inspection, and the statement of disclosures will be filed with the Local Government Commission and posted to the city's website. It also calls for the public hearing to be held at the next board meeting on July 8th, and that bond order will take effect when approved by voters in October. Then you have the next 2 pages in the public notice that will be published in the Sun Journal. It includes the 3 bond orders that we just reviewed, and in the last paragraph of Section 4, it also provides the total of all 3 proposed bonds in the amount of $24 million, the estimated interest of all 3 bonds in the amount of $13,466,880. That calculation consists of the safe harbor rate of 5.344%, which is determined by the Local Government Commission for calculating estimated interest. It's the highest rate charged for similar tax-exempt debt over the last 20 years. It also provides the estimated property tax rate increase of 2.75 cents per $100 of assessed valuation to pay for the debt of all 3 bond orders, if they were all passed. The next 3 pages, you will see the statement of disclosures. The purpose of the statement is to provide transparency to voters about the potential costs and financial implications of the GO bond referendum. It is informing the public of what we are considering adopting in July and requests their opinion at the next board meeting prior to adopting. It is filed with the Local Government Commission and posted on the city's website. This document breaks out each bond order and its respective estimated interest and estimated property tax rate increase if approved by the voters and is issued. The information provided includes the streets and sidewalk bond for $10 million with estimated interest of $5,611,200 and an estimated tax rate increase of 1.51 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. The Parks and Rec bond in the amount of $8 million with an estimated interest of $4,488,960 and an estimated tax rate increase of 75 cents. And the Stormwater bond in the amount of $6 million with an estimated interest of $3,366,720 and an estimated tax rate increase of 49 cents per $100 of assessed value. If all 3 bond orders were to be approved, the total estimated tax rate increase is $2.75 per $100 of assessed value. The sworn statement of debt follows with the next 2 pages. This document is required to be filed with the local government commission and reports on the city's current debt and any authorized bonds that have not been issued. I am officially submitting to the city clerk a signed copy of the sworn statement of debt and the statement of disclosures. Lastly, the following 3 pages consist of the bond referendum with each ballot question. As you can see, each one is voted on individually. Looking forward, we are planning on holding 4 meetings during the months of August and September to educate our citizens and taxpayers, provide information and answer questions on these bonds. And tonight, our bond attorney, John Mize, and with Wombold, Bond and Dixon, and Ted Cole, and the city's financial consultant, Davenport, are here to answer any questions that you may have about what's presented to you tonight regarding the GO bonds.
Board have questions? Kim, I have a few. First off, can you tell us how much the total interest would be on all 3 of the bonds if approved? Based off of the safe harbor rate.
Mm-hmm. I have it right here. It was $13,466,880.
Okay. And $24 million is the total for all 3 bond referendums?
Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming that the language, since we have consultants that help craft these, say things like up to this amount, not to exceed, to make sure that we're protected in a situation where a project starts and it costs more. We can't spend but as much money as what was authorized, correct? Okay. And then the last one was taxes are levied at what time of the process? Is it when the projects start and the money is pooled? I know it's not when the bond is approved, it's when the projects start, but I'm just asking the time frame. So, for example, if these, just say all 3 of them were approved on October, I'm sure some of these projects are somewhat shovel-ready. Some will take some design and planning. I just want to give the public the idea of when they could potentially see a tax increase for these projects. I don't think it would be all at once, was my point.
Good evening. I'm Ted Cole with Davenport. The analysis that we've run for the potential tax increases assume that the new revenue through tax adjustment would be done as part of the FY27 budget. Now, ultimately, it could be done later, but it may be at a higher total impact. This was one of 2 approaches we analyzed, and I think had shared with you all at some point, FY27, the first budget following the vote.
And Kim, thank you for that. And Kim, to clarify, you said $2 and change for every $100 in valuation. Could you maybe give just a quick example of what an average tax bill, if you were to have $300,000 in property value, what that would equate to?
So, yes, I can. So we had, I just want to get the right dollar amount. It was $2.75 per $100 of assessed value. That's $27.50 for every $100,000 of assessed value.
Okay. Thank you. Does the board have any other questions?
Kim, can you break that out? So just say, for instance, somebody owns a home that's $300,000.
Mm-hmm. I think it's 8250 for 300,000.
Board have any other questions?
I do. I might be piggybacking off of what you had already asked, Mayor. But listening to the beginning of the taxation, you said fiscal year 2027.
Mm-hmm.
And we know we said previously that all the money would not be borrowed at the same time. It would be staggered over the 20-year period, correct?
No.
A 4-year
Yeah.
period of borrowing, fiscal 26 through 29.
26 through 29, thank you. So then looking at, let's say for the sidewalks, 10 million at 0.0151 per year over a span of how many years again?
Well, we pay the debt back over a span of 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that I understand your question.
The tax begins in 2027, is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct. The estimates that we provided for tax increases would be effective FY '27 if the referendum's approved.
Okay, and then the span would be for 4 years, is that what you said?
If all 3 bond orders were approved by the voters or bond questions, we would expect, part of our planning work is that you would issue the debt, not all at once, but over a 4-year period. Every time you issue the debt, we're assuming that payback is a 20-year term, and that the tax rate dedicated to the repayment of the debt would run for the term of the debt.
I'm trying to follow you.
You want me to say that?
Please,
Okay.
repeat that.
So there are 3 bond questions.
Mhm.
Those will be voted on separately. If they were to be approved, then the city would, with your approval, or the board at that time, right, the approval of the bonds by the voters does not clear the path for issuing the debt. It has to come back to the board each time you issue the debt. The planning work that we've done with your staff assumes that we would issue $2 million of bonds in fiscal 26, $16 million in 27, 2.8 in 28, and $3 million in 29. So by fiscal 29, the $24 million of bonds will have been issued, and the city will have received that money for projects. Each of those 4 bond issues, 26, 27, 28, 29, we've assumed the term of the debt, the repayment period, is a 20-year term, which is pretty standard. It's like having a 20-year mortgage. We're going to repay that debt over 20 years. And as that new annual debt service comes online, we've calculated that we would need the equivalent of 2.75 pennies on the tax rate to make those payments, and that revenue would need to be in place for the term of the debt.
Thank you. I just want it simplified for the public so that they could hear and get clarity, and I know that going forward we're going to have some opportunities to engage the public also in our public hearing that is scheduled for July 8th. I just want it simplified so to make sure that our public understands and can follow. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I would consider listening to a motion on item number 17, if one would like to be made.
Mayor will make a motion to, and help me with the wording, that we are adopting the orders authorizing 2025 general obligation bonds. Is that accurate? Okay. So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting.
Just one second. Kim?
Yeah.
Let's verify. There has to be a separate vote for each one.
Okay. Let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Prill.
Alderman Prill,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor,
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
No.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to item number 18, consider adopting a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Drug Enforcement Administration. Chief Gallagher.
Thank you, Mayor, Board. I'm pleased to be here today to request an opportunity to participate with the Federal Task Force Officer Program with the Department of the Drug Enforcement Agency. The New Bern Police Department for decades have been investigating and trying to combat the spread and the distribution of dangerous drugs in our community. In 2024, we saw an increase of over 50% more drug arrests than the previous year, and almost 25% more drug arrests over a 4-year period. We've been given this opportunity to partner with the DEA through the Federal Task Force Officer Program to leverage additional resources, training, and intelligence. An assigned TFO would work out of the New Bern Police Department's Narcotics Office, and our focus would be on New Bern or investigations within New Bern. Now, the task force officer would also be responsible, if needed by the DEA, for regional investigations. Part of the asset of this relationship would be reimbursement for buy money and also additional focus on investigations into vape shops and their relationship with illegal contraband. We currently have relationships with the federal government through TFOs with the FBI, the U.S. Marshal Service, and the state of North Carolina's Commerce Department. Participation in this program would not remove any uniformed officers from the Operations Division. This collateral assignment would be assigned to a plainclothes detective who is currently in the narcotics unit. The reality is, whether we have a formal agreement with the DEA or not, we've been working with the DEA on drug investigations for years. This would just benefit our agency greatly because of the formalized relationship would give us the additional resources to leverage our investigations and hopefully have a bigger impact on drug distributions in New Bern. So I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this relationship. Does the board have questions?
If not, Mayor, I'd like to make a I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution approving a MOU with the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Chief, you have me at vape shops, so let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Royal.
Alderman Royal?
Yes.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Prill?
Yes.
Mayor Odham?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Next up is considered adopting a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for the 2025 Bureau of Justice Assistant Bulletproof Vest Grant. Chief Gallagher.
Yes, this is very similar to the requests that we make annually. In order to sustain the bulletproof vest rotation and for new officers of 23 vests, that liability to the city is $32,982. To participate in this grant, and if we receive this grant, our liability would be cut in half to $16,491. This is a 50-50 match, and again, this is the exact language that we've had for the past 4 years since I've been the chief here.
Board have questions?
There's no questions. I make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for the 2025 Bureau of Justice Assistant Bulletproof Vest Grant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Astor.
Alderman Astor?
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey?
Yes.
Alderman Best?
Yes.
Alderman Prill?
Yes.
Alderman Royal?
Yes.
Mayor Odham?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Next up is item number 20, consider adopting an ordinance for the demolition of 1014 Gray Street. Ms. Root.
Good evening again. Staff is seeking an approval of an ordinance to demolish the dwelling and accessory structure located at 1014 Grace Street. Staff has sent the owner of record an initial minimum housing letter as is required on January 9th, 2023, stating that the dwelling and structures located at 1014 Grace Street have deficiencies constituting violations of our minimum housing code. Staff further attempted to contact the owners via the U.S. Postal Service, and certified letters were sent and returned, and non-certified letters were delivered but received no response. No working contact information, phone numbers, email addresses, or relatives were identified in our staff investigation, so staff filed a complaint and a notice of hearing on September 16th of 2024, and neither of the defendants attended the October 15th, 2024 hearing. Given this, on October 17th, 2024, an order of the building inspector was served to the owners to bring the dwelling back into compliance with minimum housing standards established by Chapter 38 of our City Code with an expiration date of December 16th, 2024. To date, there has been no contact from the owners, no permits have been applied for, and the dwelling and the accessory structure as well remain non-compliant. Both the complaint and the OBI were published in the newspaper and posted on the dwelling to ensure notification requirements were fulfilled. The demolition estimate on this property from our Public Works Department is $10,330. This excludes asbestos testing, and at this point, utility terminations have not yet been completed. I will point out this property is in an AE flood zone, and if adopted, would be eligible for CDBG funding for demolition. Given that, Mr. Easel is available this evening to provide additional details or provide answers to questions you may have on this case.
Board have questions? I have one on the demolition estimate. That's a pretty specific number. Are you using that something by square foot, or how did you come up with that number, Patrick?
Correct. That comes from Public Works themselves. They have a formula they use to do that.
Okay. For those that have been on the board for any length of time, that number seems to be quite a bit higher than what we would typically see. Do you know, have we changed that calculation recently?
And it's mostly in tipping fees is what we'll see with that.
Okay. That was all the questions I have. Does the board have any?
If there's no more questions by the board, I make a motion to adopt an ordinance for the demolition of 1014 Grace Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on item number 20? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call starting with Alderman Kinsey.
Alderman Kinsey,
Yes.
Alderman Best,
Yes.
Alderman Prill,
Yes.
Alderman Royal,
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to item number 21, consider adopting the final budget ordinance amendment for FY 2025. Ms. Ostrom.
This budget ordinance allows for the final budget adjustments for fiscal year 25 to ensure sufficient budget for projected expenses and alignment of revenues. Overall, the general fund amendment includes an increase of $655,000 for health insurance costs, $104,000 for the replacement of the PEG channel equipment, which is part of the insurance claim reimbursement. Costs were partially offset with reductions in budgets across several divisions, with the largest being $320,000 for debt payments. That was budgeted, but since we delayed financing the capital, the debt payments will begin next fiscal year. The result appropriates $430,000 from fund balance for the general fund. The water fund reflects an increase of $350,000, which includes an increase in health insurance, utility costs, water meters, pipes and fittings, and $39,000 for the write-off of SkySail tap fees due to bankruptcy, and an increase of $6,000 for interfund transfers with a reduction of $225,000 in shared service charges. The result appropriates $170,000 from fund balance. The sewer fund reflects an increase of $80,000 for health insurance, $75,000 for the write-off of sky sale tap fees, $15,000 for interfund transfers. These increases were offset by $170,000 for the reduction of shared services, and no additional fund balance is appropriated. The electric fund reflects an increase of $10,000 for the increased cost for purchased power in the amount of $2.7 million, $400,000 for transformers, cables, devices, and an increase in overtime salaries and health insurance. Cost of shared services and interfund transfers increased by $87,000 and debt consulting costs by $89,000. The result of these adjustments appropriates $3,186,000 from electric fund's fund balance. The Employees Benefit Insurance Fund reflects an increase of $2,287,000 for health insurance claims, and the other post-employment benefits fund is amended to reflect the transfer of $100,000. Do you have any questions?
Does the board have questions? Could you provide some clarity on the Sky Cell bankruptcy that we're writing on? If you have any?
So we received the papers for the bankruptcy for Sky Sale, and we have to dismiss those bad debt charges. So essentially, we're writing them off. I have not personally seen it. It was with Scott and our accounts revenue person.
So who's filing bankruptcy?
We're going to have to ask the city attorney to answer that question. Marvin, can you get him?
I'm just curious because all I hear is every time a unit gets on the market in Sky Cell, it sells quickly. So I'm curious on who filed bankruptcy and who still owes us money for tap fees. I would have thought the tap fees would have been paid for a long time ago.
They unsecured debt, Kim? Tap fees, unsecured debt?
It's amounts that are owed, and it goes to bad debt write-off.
Mr. Davis, the question I had was about the Sky Cell bankruptcy.
Yes, sir. The bankruptcy removed $60-some thousand of debt for sewer tap fees. Those were unsecured claims, and in bankruptcy, those unsecured claims go unpaid. I want to say we might have gotten pennies on a dollar. I don't remember what it was, 10, 20 cents on a dollar for unsecured claims.
And this is...
So it goes back 10, 15 years?
Okay, that was my question.
Oh, this is a long, long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Why do they owe us tap fees for 15 years?
They probably owed them 15 years ago and didn't pay them. That's why they filed bankruptcy.
Exactly. The project went upside down during the bust around 2007, and we received about half of our tap fee payments when they filed bankruptcy, so the remaining balance was stripped.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt the final budget ordinance amendment for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on item number 21. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, let's have a roll call starting with Alderman Best.
Alderman Best.
Yes.
Alderman Prill.
Yes.
Alderman Royal.
Yes.
Alderman Astor.
Yes.
Alderman Kinsey.
Yes.
Mayor Odham.
Yes, motion carries. Next up is appointments. Does anyone have an appointment tonight?
I do, sir.
All right, let me get Alderman Kinsey first. Go ahead, sir.
I'm going to be appointing Tim Thompson to the HPC.
Okay, I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to, I believe that's a reappointment of Tim Thompson.
It is.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, he's reappointed. Is that all, sir?
I have another appointment, a new appointment, placing Marcus with, I think this is John I don't want to mess his name up. Schmeed, okay.
I would think.
To the HPC.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. So Alderman Kinsey's made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, he is appointed. Is that all you had, sir?
That's it.
Okay, Alderman Astor, I think you had one.
Yes, I would like to reappoint Tim Tabak, yeah, thank you, to the Board of Adjustments. And I would also like to...
Let's do him first.
Okay.
So we have a motion to reappoint Tim Tabak to the Board of Adjustments. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Tabak is reappointed. Now go ahead with your second one, sir.
All right, and to HPC, Mr. Jim Bisbee is no longer able to be reappointed. So in his place, I would like to appoint Ross Beebe.
Do we have a second to the nomination? Okay, we have a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Beebe is appointed. Anyone else have a one?
Yes, I would like to motion to reappoint Ms. Kathleen Marty to the Board of Adjustment. She served previously. She says she would love to serve another term.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second for Ms. Marty?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reappoint Ms. Marty. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Marty is reappointed. Anyone else? Okay, I will move on to Attorney's Report.
Nothing report tonight, Mayor.
City Manager's Report.
A few items to update you on. Our aquatic center was scheduled to open Memorial Weekend. About 3 days before that occurred, the pump malfunctioned. Unfortunately, the type of pump we have at the swimming pool is not one you can go out to a Walmart or a local pool supply company to replace. And so we have had to work with a local pump company, and they have had to literally scour the United States to find the parts and the motors to basically rebuild this. So staff has had conversations with them this week. All of the parts are supposed to be in place tomorrow. The pump company has told us that the pump should be put back together by Friday. If that occurs, staff will install the pump Friday at some point, and the goal is for the aquatic center to be open on Saturday. So I want to let you know that. The Riverwalk Fishing Pier, we had our grand opening on Friday, May 23rd. Staff is still in the process of installing the lights. Those got turned on May 28th. And so the fishing pier has been active. We've had a lot of good comments from the citizens and visitors. The fishing is available on the pier 24/7, and it is free to fish on the pier. So I'll let you know that. Just a reminder, the Employee Appreciation Luncheon will be on Thursday, June 12th at the Westover Recreation Center from 11 to 1. And also, we've got 4th of July coming up, so just a reminder, city offices will be closed on July 4th. The 4th of July celebration will occur at Lawson Creek Park. Events kick off at 5:30 p.m. We'll have live music, entertainment, and fireworks will be held promptly at 9:15. That's all we have.
Okay. Next is new business. Alderman Prill.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderman Royal.
Yes, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to reallocate my remaining ARP funds for Ward 2 for the following projects. Number 1, a screening around the existing pump station at the Evergreen Cemetery. It would provide a wood fence and landscaping between the new shelter and the retention pond at a cost of $10,000. The second item is to pave Trent Street in the Pembroke community at an estimated cost of $50,000. The third one is to contribute $10,000 towards the total cost of the restroom project at Henderson Park. And the fourth one is to contribute approximately $2,400 to the Duffyfield neighborhood sign. The total proposed project is estimated at approximately $72,400.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Since we're just given direction, a resolution is going to have to come back to spend the funding correctly. So we would take
No, I don't need a resolution, but if we can repeat those amounts, I would appreciate it.
the clerk can.
We've got it.
Okay,
She
you
can
got
do
all
that
the
for you.
amounts?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we good with voice vote, since we're not doing a resolution here?
Mhm.
Okay.
Just minutes.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
Is that all you have, ma'am?
That's all.
All right, thank you. Alderman Astor.
Yes, Mayor. First thing, I wanted to ask the city manager, do we have any update on removing the traffic island on landscape in Carolina Colors by the school to make a turning lane for people to go into the school parking lot?
We do not have an update, but I can get you one. We'll send something out to the board tomorrow morning and let you know.
Okay, great. And also, as you know, with all this road construction that's taking place over on the James City side, there's been a tremendous amount of traffic using Old Airport Road, and they're coming up down to Bern Way and making a left to go out that way, or making a right to go out and continue down Old Airport Road. As a result of that, I'd like to use $6,000 of ARP funds for the electronic flashing stop sign. We've had some issues there. I've got several complaints of people actually running the stop sign through there. Talked to George Giles about it, and this was the solution that we come up with. So I'd like to ask the board to authorize not to exceed $6,000 in the electronic stop sign.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Wait a minute.
Alderman Astor, is that one?
I think it was just one, one sign. I'm sorry.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Kinsey.
Not tonight.
Thank you, Alderman Best.
Yes, also, do you have any idea when TV3 would be back up and running?
So with the budget amendment that just occurred that you had just approved, purchase order will be cut tomorrow morning. Staff will order those supplies. We'll send an update out tomorrow. They'll give us an estimated ETA on when that equipment will arrive. So we'd like to say within the next few weeks we'll receive the equipment, and our IT folks will put it all together, test it. So it would be great. It would be great if it was by the July meeting. I don't know if that'll happen, but I think definitely by the August meeting it will be back up.
Thank you.
But we'll give you an update on that.
Thank you so much. That's it.
Okay. Just one question, comment, request. Foster, I think you had mentioned that you and maybe Colleen were going to work on some collateral to show what areas within the city is open to fish. There seems to be a lot of confusion in the community about the only place to fish in the city of New Bern is the new fishing pier that we have. Some of you may have received a petition that was signed by a lot of folks that are not in the city limits, but a lot of people not even in the state. And the petition was very well crafted, except it left out one integral part, and that was the fact that we added a fishing pier. So all it talked about was what we took away. It didn't talk about what we added. And as we all know, there's a lot of places around the city that is open to the public for fishing. And I think if we had a map to show those areas, it would be very beneficial.
We're actually working with the Public Information Officer and Parks and Recreation, who's going to be putting out a robust campaign. But just to cover that information for you, Mayor, fishing is allowed anywhere where there's water access at Glen Burnie Park. It's allowed at any of the 3 ponds in Martin Marietta Park, at any locations around there, even in the canal that goes out to the Neuse River. At Lawson Creek Park, while we do have designated areas, it's available at any part of the water or along Lawson Creek Park, as well as on the river walk on Lawson Creek Park, all the way up to Council Bluff Green. So there are several areas. The only area that we do not allow fishing now is basically I made a mistake. Palace Point Commons is where it's allowed. We do not allow fishing from Council Bluff Green, basically it stops at Persimmons, right there where the housing is. You have not had the opportunity to fish at Union Point Park. You will not be able to fish basically from the convention center to the railroad tracks. The main reason we have built the pier is to allow a better opportunity for those to fish out in the water. Now, I will tell you that based on comments we have seen, we had a lot of issues with trash, fishermen not picking up bait, things like that. So it was a constant issue with city staff having to go out on a daily basis to clean up a lot of mess. We had a lot of complaints from adjoining residents, and so building the pier was a much better option. It lets them focus on fishing on that pier itself, and it also gives our citizens and visitors an opportunity to go out on that pier, enjoy nature and sightseeing as well as fishing.
Thank you for that. Do we need a closed session?
Yes, sir. A number of issues. We need a closed session to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to 143-1311A6, and we have several legal issues pursuant to 143-1311A3.
Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're in closed session.